Boom! Bam! What's going on, mob people? What's happening? So, I came across this really interesting quote. Just thought I'd share it, as well as share my views on it. It says here on coolquotescollection.com if there is no enemy within, the enemy without can do you no harm. And this is an anonymous African proverb. Here are my thoughts and feelings on that. I interpret it as, if you aren't in your own way, then what could actually stop you? I think all too often we tend to get in our own way. And let me use a concrete example. Let's say, hypothetically, for example, you want to write a book. The enemy within, according to me, is the negative self-talk you give yourself. It's the part of yourself that doubts that you can be successful in any endeavor. It's the part of you that says, that's not going to work. You'll never be able to write a book. You're not a writer. There are other people who have written books on the same subject that you're writing on, and they do a better job of it. It's that part. That is the internal enemy. That is the enemy within. And dealing with it is always easier said than done. But if we don't have that part of ourselves, or if we act despite that part of ourselves, then in reality there's nothing that could really stop us. Like I said, all too often we get in our own way. We get ensnared and trapped in our own minds, and we get trapped in the negative self-talk, that negative banter, that bickering that goes on in our heads. So how do we turn the volume down to that? It might sound simple, but it's not that easy. Here's what I suggest and I propose to you that could help. Positive affirmations. Now, I'm not sure as far as how much research has gone into positive affirmations, but having done it myself and experienced it, it's worked to quiet the enemy within. It's worked to it's worked to quiet the enemy within. It has worked to reduce that noise that goes on inside of our minds, inside of our heads. Now, let's get back to the writing example. I said earlier that as a hypothetical example, the enemy within was the part that told us that we couldn't write the book, and the part that gave all the reasons why we couldn't write the book. Here's what I'll say. Try this out. Whenever you hear that negative criticism come up, just tell yourself, I'm writing, I'm working on it. Now, I don't believe in giving yourself false ideas, trying to trick yourself into believing something that you don't believe in. But using a statement like, I'm working on it, I'm writing, is a great way to get started, because more than likely it's true. If you tell yourself, I'm making progress, I'm working on it, in the face of that negative criticism, of that inner critic, you can start to believe in the idea that you're making something happen and that you're well on your way to becoming a writer. And then springboard it from there. You know, once you start convincing yourself that you are working on it and that you are on your way to becoming a writer, you can then, once you start to believe it, tell yourself that I am a writer and that what I have to write is of value and that I will make it and I can do this because I'm doing this right now. This is just one example. This can be applied to many aspects of life or even just doing anything in general. You have to start by first being aware of this inner critic, this enemy within. And then once you become aware of it, you combat it with believable statements about your progress, about what you're doing. And then from there on, proceed to giving yourself more positive statements that can quiet this inner critic. It all starts with awareness. You have to be aware of this critic first. So, that's my interpretation of this really, really powerful, awesome African proverb. I think it's worth reading again. Remember, if there is no enemy within, the enemy without can do you no harm. So if you learn to combat that enemy within by first being aware of it and then by combating it with positive statements that are believable to you, you'll be well on your way to achieving your goals. Hope that helped. I wish you the best of luck on your fitness and your life journeys. Remember, I'm in your corner. I got your back. Mob.